The Polish Minister of Justice must have been extremely excited today, as the Court of Justice of the European Union issued a ruling against the Constitutional Tribunal. Today, the Court of Justice of the European Union said that the Polish Constitutional Tribunal does not meet the requirements of an impartial and independent constitutional court, which is, after all, the most important body in our country. According to the Court of Justice of the European Union, the Constitutional Tribunal in Poland does not meet the requirements of an independent and impartial court previously established by law due to irregularities in the appointment of 3 of its members and its president. The issues raised by the Court of Justice of the European Union do not exist at present, meaning we currently have a properly elected president of the Constitutional Tribunal. We have a situation where the 3 judges who were allegedly supposed to be substitutes are no longer judges. Their terms of office from 2015 have expired, so all the current terms of office are not the same as those that are in any way tainted. There is certainly no possibility of challenging the status of Bogdan Święczkowski, president of the Constitutional Tribunal, who was elected in a properly uncontested procedure, but such a narrative is already being pushed by the government. The question arises, by what right does the Court of Justice decide on our constitutional body, the Constitutional Tribunal, and is it impartial and independent? This type of ruling does not function in the Polish system, because the rulings of international courts or international bodies, which the EU still is and hopefully will remain so for as long as possible, do not have direct power and are not a source of law in Poland. The ruling is the result of a complaint lodged by the European Commission in 2023. The Court of Justice of the European Union has about as much influence on the legality of the Polish Constitutional Tribunal and its rulings as I have on whether it will snow during the upcoming holidays. None. If we were to accept the logic of the Court of Justice of the European Union, they could soon question, for example, the position of the President of Poland. They would perhaps consider him to have been illegally elected. However, the Minister of Justice is following a narrative that resembles a submissive vassal approach to the decisions of the Court of Justice of the European Union. It is the most important EU court, which is also a Polish court. It decides whether the actions of our authorities are in line with EU law. EU law is also Polish law, and the treaties that Poland has concluded are binding on Poland and must be respected by us. But they do not take precedence over the Constitution, which Minister Żurek seems to have forgotten. What the Court of Justice of the European Union has done is simply beyond comprehension. Let's be clear, it is a so-called pseudo-court. It is not a court in the constitutional sense. This ruling by the court has no significance for the legal order in Poland because it was issued ultra vires, that is, beyond the powers conferred on it by the nation-states. In that case, what are the powers of the Court of Justice of the European Union? The Court of Justice of the European Union is a body that is supposed to harmonize the application of community law in member states, but community law is enacted by the institutions of the European Union only to the extent that the sovereign member states themselves have conferred on it the competence to enact that law. What is more, in 2021, the Constitutional Tribunal responded to a question from the Polish Prime Minister at the time, Mateusz Morawiecki, who wanted a comprehensive ruling on the conflict between European law and the Polish Constitution. The Constitutional Tribunal ruled that EU treaties cannot take precedence over the Polish Constitution. As a result, the European Commission asked the Polish government to withdraw the Prime Minister's inquiry. Is this what the sovereignty of the community's member states should look like? The Constitution is in force in Poland, and the Constitution takes precedence over all other acts, including acts of politicization of the Court of Justice of the European Union. Therefore, it is the Constitution that regulates the legal order in Poland. That is why judges emphasize. It is important that the Polish Constitutional Tribunal has repeatedly spoken on this subject, and the Constitutional Tribunal has stated, as the German tribunal has stated, that the German constitution is more important than the decisions of the pseudo-European tribunal, just as the Polish court ruled that the decisions of the Polish Constitutional Tribunal are the most important. All the more so because The Court of Justice of the European Union is not an independent, impartial court, but a body of the European Union composed of politicized members directly elected by politicians appointed by the governments of individual countries. Therefore, since its inception, this EU body has always sought and will always seek to interpret the law in such a way as to expand the powers of the European Union so that it always suits the European Union and not the sovereign nation states. So the judges of the Court of Justice of the European Union can be elected by politicians. In this case, no one is raising any objections about impartiality or independence. We are dealing with a strictly political body consisting of politicians appointed by member states or other individuals, but these are certainly not people who have democratic legitimacy. Therefore, this political body under the guise of the Tribunal is commenting on the competences of the Polish Constitutional Tribunal, that is, the body that has a monopoly on determining whether normative acts are in line with the Polish Constitution. It is the Polish Constitutional Tribunal that examines the constitutionality of Polish laws. This has always been the case and will continue to be so.
Two Patriot anti-aircraft and anti-missile batteries of the 37th Air Defense Missile Squadron in Sohachev have reached full combat readiness.
Today, the game has changed. Today, Poland takes the lead. Poland, even America doesn't have an IBCS like this. So Poland's enemies are seeing this. Poland sees this. The American people see this. President Trump cherishes this, values it.
Poland's Minister of Defense also spoke during the ceremony. This is the most expensive part of the Polish defense system. The cost of defending against drones and missiles is over 10 times higher than the cost of firing the missiles or drones. This shows what a huge investment it is. It's good that at least they are not terminating the agreements concluded by Law and Justice on multi-layered missile defense and the Patriot system. I am glad that at least the first two batteries have achieved full operational readiness. This is another example of the current government taking credit for the previous government's successes. It was during the Law and Justice government, when Minister Błaszczak was Minister of National Defense, that he first proposed two batteries from the Patriot system and then 6 batteries from the Patriot system in 2023. Thanks to this, Polish airspace is now much safer. 2 batteries of American anti-aircraft and anti-missile systems are intended to protect Warsaw. Patriot systems are one of the most modern anti-aircraft systems in the world. They are used to detect, track and destroy hostile air targets. This is an anti-missile and anti-aircraft weapon. The program was initiated in 2018. In total, Poland has purchased 8 batteries, which together have more than 60 launchers. They are armed with nearly 800 missiles. For now, this government talks a lot but does little. The announcements we are talking about at the moment are decisions made by its predecessors. But we are far behind. We definitely do not have enough ammunition, and we do not currently have any procedures in place for the rapid production of drones. As the current government argues, EU loans from the SAFE programme, from which Poland is to receive around €44 billion, are to be the golden fleece for Polish defence. The question is whether Polish companies will benefit from this or someone else. The SAFE fund must be implemented in partnership with at least 2 countries. I'm curious to see which countries the current Ministry of National Defence has chosen. Who will they cooperate with in spending these billions of euros to improve security of Poland? Will it be mainly German entities? Despite the fine words spoken at various ceremonies, the most important ally for Donald Tusk's government is not the United States, the strongest NATO country, which has about 10,000 soldiers stationed in Poland. As is tradition, Berlin is the primary ally of Prime Minister Donald Tusk. He is following a path of conflict with the Polish President's office, a path of underestimating the importance of close relations with the United States, and a path of excessive trust in only European partners. These are the misguided points in Donald Tusk's policy, and from the point of view of Polish national interest, this kind of approach is extremely harmful. Donald Tusk's foreign policy is little known around the world. The presidential office has taken the initiative. Tomorrow, at the invitation of President Karol Nawrocki, the President of Ukraine will visit Poland. Kostiantynivka, Donetsk Oblast, less than 10 kilometers from the front line. And those still living here only think about one thing: survival. This is our city. I've lived here for 54 years. It's very difficult to look at the destruction. It's better to look away and ask God for protection. May God watch over us. The Russians are threatening once again. If Ukraine does not agree to their terms, they claim that they will take the lands they consider theirs by force. Kiev warns that the Kremlin is preparing for an offensive. Today we heard another signal from Moscow that they are preparing for the coming year to be a year of war. And these signals are not only for us. It is important that our partners recognize this. The West sees the Russians' movements, not only around Ukraine. A German expert and CDU member of parliament has just revealed that Moscow is amassing huge forces up to 360,000 troops in Belarus. Let's remember that this is actually pressure. In reality, there are two Russian armies consisting of many points of pressure. This is something we must make clear. Russia is not only deploying its armed forces in Ukraine, but has much more modern forces, more widely equipped in terms of war economy, precisely to create this high-pressure situation. NATO does not confirm these revelations, but at the same time does not deny them. And that is very telling. The Russians are testing the security systems of the countries on the eastern flank almost daily. Yesterday, 3 Russian soldiers violated the state border with Estonia and conducted reconnaissance of the banks of the border river between the countries. Hence, a significant acceleration of work on security guarantees for Kiev, which were discussed with the Americans, and the very sharp statements by the NATO Secretary General.
Putin has to know that after a peace deal, if he would try to attack Ukraine again, the reaction will be devastating. And this is exactly how we are designing these security guarantees.
The thing is, it is not yet clear whether there will be any agreement at all. This weekend, negotiating teams are to meet in the United States to discuss the plan prepared by Washington and Kiev.
I think we're closer now, and they will tell you that they're closer now. We had numerous conversations with President Putin of Russia, and I think we're closer now than we have been.
One of the contentious issues, apart from territorial claims, was Russian assets frozen in the West, which some European countries want to transfer to Ukraine as part of their support in the war with Russia. The problem is that not everyone shares this view. Belgium, which holds most of the Russian funds, argues that this undermines investment confidence in Europe, both legally and politically. A different approach to assets held in Belgium and other European Union countries would drastically increase the risk of Russian retaliation, especially against Belgium, and that is also unacceptable. If we withdraw, we will all withdraw together. Belgium will not accept a solution in which we alone bear both the risk and the responsibility. Yesterday in Strasbourg, the European Parliament called on member states to cooperate on the rapid movement of troops. The aim is to remove barriers to the movement of units across the borders of many countries. In this case, we are talking primarily about the need for urgent mobilization of forces towards the Baltic states or Poland.